Northwest from Western Oregon, played there. How fulfilling is it to come back to Oregon and be able to coach in the state?
Yeah, it's awesome to come back home. This has always kind of been my dream job, looking at, from afar. So really excited to be back home, raise my kids here. My wife's from Klamath Falls, so it's really a homecoming for both of us.
So take us into just philosophically for you in breaking up special teams individually as much as you do, because you hear that's a bit unusual to break it into that refined, individualized kind of group.
Yeah, I think it's really important just because, just like on offense and defense, your offense and defense don't meet together every day. That wouldn't make any sense because the O-line needs to hear different stuff than the running backs and the different stuff than the receivers and so on and so forth. Same thing on defense. So I'm a defensive coach. I was a defensive coordinator for a long time, so I just model it the exact same way. Like, I don't want guys to tune out in meetings, and oftentimes if you're talking about a different position, that happens. So it's just to maximize, and there's also some team building stuff behind it. You get different coaches with different players, you get different player position groups with each other, and so there's a team building piece to it too.
So how many groups does it get broken into in terms of, if we're on punt return, is it?
Yeah, we just break it down. I don't want to get into specifics so people can copy my stuff, so we break it down.
How does Coach Lanning put an emphasis on special teams in practices?
We start every day with special teams. If you come to practice, you'll see the first 5 minutes after flex are given to special teams. So that's an emphasis point for us, and then we have another 15-minute period during practice, or 7.5 and 7.5 during practice. And I should have said also a special teams walkthrough before practice. So I would never go to a job if I had a choice where I didn't think there was going to be an emphasis on special teams. I wouldn't have come here if I didn't know that what Coach Lanning was going to do. He and I worked together at Arizona State and Memphis. We're really good on special teams at those places, and so he knows my system. I knew that he knew my system, and that's part of my system.
How far along has your group come since day one of spring ball till now? Just what stands out to you right now?
Well, I think the guys have come a long ways. I think they've done a good job. They've really bought in. I think they were hungry to be good. We got in here and kind of illustrated, just over the last few years, a comparison between where I was at and where Oregon was, and not to really be about me or anything, but just teaching them. A big part of special teams is getting guys to buy in. Part of my job is sales, right? Like, no one comes here to be the right guard on punt. So how do I get someone to be the right guard on punt? Well, number one, how can it help them? I got to make sure that they know it can help them, which it can with NFL opportunities. And then number two, how can it help us, right? So I just illustrated to them, that where they've been in special teams. I took 4 years, and I think it was pretty eye-opening for the guys, and seeing the impact that it could have on games if we can flip that and turn it the right way.
So you're never going to be settled for a level of accomplishment, but are you seeing that buy-in? Are you seeing you progressing special teams wise where you hope to be?
Yeah, I think so. You never know until you actually get live bullets, but from what I've seen from body language and demeanor and the way the guys are focused in meetings and the questions that are asked to me, the extra time that guys come up and spend on those things, I think it's there. But I'm a big don't talk about it, be about it person. But it seems that way right now, yes.
What are the origins of Scrape the Paint? Did you get that from somebody, or is that something you originated? Or?
Man, I've been doing it so long I can't remember, to be honest with you. Everything's stolen, so it's probably stolen from somebody. But it's what everything in the whole foundation of our special teams comes with two goals, right? Number one, own the ball, and number two, no penalties, which might sound like a really simple thing, but literally, that's all I care about. Like, I just want to own the football. I don't care if we're last in the country in punt return. I could care less. We won't be. I think my track record proves that. But the most important thing is to get the ball back to our offense. The most important thing is to not hurt yourself with penalties. If you really pay attention, like I do as a special teams coordinator, most people don't win games because of special teams. They lose games because they hurt. It has nothing to do with their opponent. They hurt themselves in special teams. And so it's important to me that we just have those two goals so that everybody in this building knows it and can recite it. Our guys say it every day. I have them actually verbalize it. It's how we start meetings. I say, what are our two goals? Number one, they all say it. Number two, they all say it. The janitor better know what they are. I want it very clear, specific, and concise. And it's in my time of doing this, it's proven that what you focus on, you get if you only focus on a couple things. And I think if we just improve, if we just improve in those two areas, we'll be much better.
When you talk about the areas that you want to improve and address, how much of what you're looking to get corrected in the puzzle you're trying to solve was schematic versus execution and some technique applied there, basically?
Yeah, you're always going to look at scheme, but scheme's very overrated in special teams. I believe that simplicity equals speed, so I'm going to have things be really simple. It's all really good stuff. It's all got a long proven track record, but I want guys to play fast. And then what I want to fix again is the things that hurt us, right? Like last year, Oregon had 16 penalties. Penn State had 9. As an example, I'm just using Penn State because that's where I came from. Oregon had 4 not own the balls. Penn State had 1 in 3 years. So, just flipping, just adhering to those goals and keeping it simple that way is my main focus.
Back to the position group thing, can you just put in context how unusual that is? Are you aware of other schools doing that? Or?
I think I've seen some people do it in the NFL, but I think it's pretty unusual. You just have to have buy-in from the head coach and the staff, and there's a lot of organization that goes into it that makes it pretty difficult.
How did you come about, I guess, that concept?
Well, like I said, I was a defensive coordinator for a long time. And then I was working at Arizona State, and the head coach just said, why do you guys all do special teams that way? Why don't you just do it like we do offense and defense? And it made sense.
When you coached with Dan in the past, was it ever a conversation or a plan that, you guys would like to coach together again in the future?
Oh, yeah.
When you got the opportunity?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all the time. We always talked about, I don't want to be a head coach, so I knew I wouldn't be a head coach unless it was a real small college or something. But I knew he was, see, they're buying in. CTG is our change the game mantra. So I knew I didn't want to be a head coach at that level, but I also knew that Dan was extremely bright, going to be on a fast track, and so we always talked about when he got that opportunity, wanting to do it together. I had no idea that it would be at my dream location for a job. That just made it an extra bonus, but certainly I'm proud of him, and I'm excited to work for him and with him.
Have you had the chance to look at last year's film, last year's number for the Ducks on special teams? Where do you identify some areas of strength that you guys can build on?
Did you say have I or have?
Or what strengths have you identified from last year that you guys can build on special teams wise?
They have some returning production at punter and kicker. I think we can build on that. That's really, I'm not really looking at it that way. When you first get here, you're just kind of looking at what did they do? Are there any similarities? To be honest, I haven't even, since I got here, I looked at it for 2 days and haven't looked at it since, so I couldn't speak specifically to that. And then I also kind of really just watched it pretty quick to get an idea, but I didn't want to have a preconceived notion of people. That can kind of give you blind spots, and so I didn't really focus too much on that. I just zipped through to see the scheme stuff, like was there similarities, was it going to be a lot different, that kind of thing.
What's your philosophy on basically there's plenty of places where they look at special teams and say, okay, the guys toward the bottom of the depth chart are on the 2 deep. Mm-hmm. Okay, but the starters maybe a little bit less. Whereas there are others who they say nobody's immune to it. Everybody goes out
so
there.
Every starter besides offense, O-line, D-line, and quarterbacks can be on 2. They can start on 2 units, and everybody that starts on offense or defense besides O-line, D-line, quarterbacks should start on at least 1. If not, then they should rest on offense and defense.
You said you were more about players who be about it rather than talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen any players who have been about it that are trying to earn a spot on the actively on special teams?
Yeah, I think they all are. Yeah, I think they all are. They're really bought in. They're excited about it. Again, I think when you get there, the first meeting I have and you put those numbers up, it's kind of glaring. I mean, we've been 115th in the country, 117th in the country, 109th in the country. I think when you do that and you say, well, guys, you were 12-2 that year. Maybe if you're top 15, you're 13-1. I don't know. I didn't go back and watch that, but it certainly would have helped, right? And then I think you also equate it because they're all offensive and defensive players, and say would those numbers be okay on your offense or your defense? No way, coach. Heck no. Well, then it can't be okay in this area, right? And then I also show them other teams, like I showed all the playoff teams every year for the last 4 years. I showed Oregon stats, I showed Penn State stats, then I showed Alabama, Clemson, whoever they were, I can't remember. And said, okay, here's where those people finished. And every year, there's sometimes one outlier, like I think Clemson one year because they had just an amazing offense. But all the other teams, they're in the top 20 in special teams also, because that obviously has a huge impact on your winning. So I think when the guys saw that and then also see how we do things, I think it helps with the buy-in.
Is that something that you've showed in the players and this could also be your pathway to the next level? Because you talked about that a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the things that I definitely emphasized for them and showed them. Micah Parsons at Penn State. Micah's one of the best linebackers in the NFL, and he was on 2 special teams at Penn State. And showing them that Devontae Smith, who won the Heisman Trophy, he was on 3 special teams, and he was mad he wasn't on 4. So, illustrating that to those guys. Like I said, how do you start? How is it going to help them? first, and then how's it going to help our team second is how I go about it.
Camden Lewis has had some incredibly high highs here, and he's had some.
Who'd you say?
Cam Lewis.
Yep.
He's had some lows too. Just what's just been your progress with him through camp, and just what have you seen from him as a kicker?
I think he's doing a good job. We're going to bring in some competition for him. I think we need more competition. I think just like at every position, when you have someone that's pushing you that could possibly beat you out, I think it motivates you. So we're going to bring in some more competition for him.
To your defensive group specifically, just what does Jamal bring to that through obviously the production, we know that historically, but what do you see in him that makes him cut out for that nickel role?
Well, I think one of the things about him is he's tremendously smart. He's got great work ethic. He works really hard. It's really, really important to him, and he spends extra time. People may or may not know, but he's like a junkie. He walked in, actually, I think it was yesterday, walked in with me, an hour and a half early before he had to be at meetings. Spends extra time. He's a team guy. He's just someone that I think the Oregon fan base can be really proud of. I mean, the stuff he does behind the scenes is pretty special.
And
Last question.
Bennett in that same capacity as, again, one of those 60-year senior guys who's done it in a variety of ways.
Yeah, I see Bennett very similar. Bennett also is in a really big role because he's playing multiple positions for us because we feel like we want to have him trained at different things. So he's got to be smart to do what he's doing. I think he's playing 4 different positions, and so he's embraced it really well, has a great attitude every day, and again, he's a guy that I'm really proud of.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep, thanks.